Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to another episode of Garage Topics. I'm going to go over today how I've been able to own 24 cars in my short 13 years of actually driving. Alright, this video is brought to you by this fine beverage. This is a video I've been meaning to make for a long time. It's information that I could have used when I was young and starting out and trying to figure out life and stuff, so this video is 100% legit. Got my license, was able to fully drive when I was 16, and then I'm now 29, so that's 13 years going on right now. Ernie boy, what are you doing? Give me that ball! Ernie boy is out here trying to play with the ball. He's hanging out. This is where I do a lot of the editing. Get here, what are you doing? Give me that ball! Whoa! Sat down the other day, and by the other day I mean a couple minutes ago, and wrote down every single vehicle that I've ever owned. I had it in my mind that was higher. I'm surprised it was a little bit lower, but turns out as of this video, which is October of 2018, I've owned 24 cars in total. So this video I want to go over which cars I've had, kind of explains my history a little bit, and will kind of give someone an insight if they're looking to buy cars for the first time or trying to figure out how to enjoy cars with not that much money. This is basically how you do it. Go give me that ball! Come here, man! Whoa! So I've officially got my list here because I have a hard time remembering off the top of my head. I've got pictures of all these, it's kind of cool. So, first truck, cat's out of the bag, first truck vehicle car I ever had was a 1981 Chevrolet C10. Long story short, my parents were willing to help me out with a car or something like that, and I was kind of naive and didn't want anything they wanted. They wanted to get me something like, you know, like $1,000 that was nice and reliable, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I wanted something cool, by golly. And looking back a minute, I kind of wish I would have taken their advice, but got this 1981 C10. It was doo-doo brown. People in high school made fun of me for it. It was on the side of the road. We were driving somewhere. We saw it out front of someone's house for sale. We went and took a look. It was pretty good shape, so we picked it up. My dad helped me fix it up. I instantly put Flowmaster mufflers on it. I spent $800 on this truck and spent another couple $100 instantly putting an exhaust on it. That truck maybe had 70 horsepower. It was inline 6, 4 liter if I remember, 3-speed. Only had 3 gears, it was manual, so that was cool to learn how to do that on that truck, which was a really great way to learn because not that much power, had a manual transmission, and just a single cab so you could see all around you, so there weren't any blind spots. Looking for a first car, I'd highly recommend a truck. I didn't have that truck for a year, a little less than a year. I wanted something that was more car-like, and that was a truck. If I would have known then what I know now, those square body C10s are worth a ton of money. I sold it probably for $1,200. So fixed up a little bit, had new tires on it and stuff like that, but that same truck's probably worth easily $3+ grand today. Second vehicle I had, I kind of more so see it as my first car because it technically was my first car. It was a 1986 Chevy Camaro Z28. It had the T-tops, it was black, it was cool. I don't know why, this was thing, I think it was like $850 too. That's still about the same price, a little more give or take. This thing ran, but barely. It had housing electrical like wires in it. It was just a hot mess, Pep Boy special interior. I spent a lot of time and a lot of money on that car. Probably too much in my opinion. Put a transmission in it, put a new rear end in it, redid the entire upholstery in the interior, did a bunch of tune-up work to it, everything but the engine basically I did on that thing. I had that for a long time. All of a sudden when I was driving it once, hence the rear end, I snapped one of the gears in the back and I needed to get it fixed, so which brings me on to my third vehicle, sort of. My parents growing up, my dad had this 1975 Ford Bronco that I really adored it. I really liked it, and when my Camaro broke, they offered to sell it to me and that'd be my main car, and I was super happy. It was expensive, but I was super happy. And so I agreed that I'd pay them back over time for it, but I had it for a couple weeks, and then my parents decided it wasn't the safest thing for me to have going into college and stuff like that, so they sold it. And if you know anything about those first generation Ford Broncos, they're worth a ton of money now, and we sold ours. They sold it in 2007, 2008, when if you look at a history graph of the prices, they've just shot up from that. To give you an idea of what's going on, it was a 1975 Ford Bronco, it was uncut, minimal rust, ran and drove, could drive it daily, and I think they sold it for like $4 grand or something like that. That same truck's probably worth 12+ grand today, which is silly. Anyways, sore subject. When they made me sell that truck, the Bronco, this kid in high school had this Hyundai Tiburon. I always liked it, and so I got a Hyundai Tiburon. That was during my hot boy phase. I did a lot of work to that car, lots of show mods. My dad backed up into me one time, bent up the hood and stuff like that in the driveway, so we put a carbon fiber hood on, of course, for race life, you know. Did a custom exhaust on that. I think I did flow masters on that as well. It was custom sounding. It actually sounded really good. Had that for a while, and then I kind of realized that wasn't the car for me. It was kind of going down in value a bunch, and that's when I kind of realized that I didn't want to have something that's going down in value like crazy, which most cars are, which is kind of the reason why I was able to have this many cars. More to that later. So I replaced that with a 2004 Dodge Neon SRT4. Believe it or not, that was the longest car I've ever owned ever. I had that car for just under 3 years total, majority of my college. I met my now wife in that car. I had Club Dirty plates on it. I don't know why she agreed to get in the car with me, because it's Club Dirty Fresh. The Club Dirty Fresh began with that car and the Club Dirty license plate. Actually, the Hyundai Tiburon had it, but Club Dirty is not something I just randomly have come up with in the past couple of years. It's in my veins. Had that license plate for a while. I might get it again in the future, you never know. That car was great. It's just repairing it, just stuff was cheap on that car. Long story short, replacing the struts in that car, the studs on the top plate of the struts, like brand new OEM ones, stripped by me hand tightening them in. So just so many small little problems with that car. I had now had a job for a couple years outside of college driving this car, and I just wanted something that looked a little less hot boy. During the time of me owning that car, I had what was my sixth vehicle. It was a 1997 Jeep TJ Wrangler. So I had two cars at once. So I'd been working a bunch to pay off this Neon. I think I paid $6,500 for this Neon SRT4, something like that. It needed some paint work, which is in 2007. 2007? This was 2009, 2010. When I got this 2004, so it was pretty new, so $6,500 for a Dodge Neon with under 100,000 miles is a great deal then. Need a little bit of paint work. Anyways, graduated. As a graduation gift, my parents got me a gift of cash for me to like invest in my future and stuff like that. And of course I didn't do that. I spent all of that on buying a Jeep TJ Wrangler for $1,000, which was a good deal back then. The reason it was cheap is that it was a house mural. Someone had painted it as their college project with house paint. It was miserable looking. So I'd spent the whole summer repainting that and learned how to paint a vehicle, just doing it in the back of where I was living. Took it to my parents' house, resprayed it in orange, Hugger orange. It looked like it was a great Jeep. It looked great. During the process of me fixing that Jeep up, I found another one for the same price. It's dirt cheap. This one had good paint, had a lift on it, was re-geared. It just had a bad starter issue. It would only start every now and then. And I picked it up for cheap, knowing that I could probably fix it. And I did. I had it for a little while. So at this time, I had the Neon SRT4, the orange Jeep, and the black 98 Jeep TJ Wrangler, which was my seventh vehicle. I didn't have that for that long, probably the least time I've had a vehicle. I fixed it up, drove it around for a while, decided I had too much time, and the orange Jeep had less mileage, so I sold the black one. So a couple years go by, I move. I have the SRT4 and the Jeep. Where I lived with the Jeep was in a townhome situation. It was bright orange. I lived with a bunch of old ladies that sucked. They decided that the orange Jeep was an eyesore to the community and kept giving me crap about it, which was a bummer. It was just stupid. If you're listening, you guys suck. So back to the story. When I decided my SRT4 was a little bit too boy racery, too hot boy status, hot boy, I decided to get a 2005 Legacy GT Wagon. I wanted something that was all-wheel drive. I wanted the Subaru real bad. I've always wanted an STI. Thought that would do the trick. It didn't do the trick. It was an automatic, and I just couldn't get over that. I probably had it for just under a year. Leather seats. Was a really nice car, but I decided to sell that Legacy GT Wagon 2005 and my 97 Jeep TJ Wrangler. And with all that cash, I bought a 2008 Legacy GT Spec B. They're pretty rare cars. What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm trying to film right now. What are you doing? I'm trying to film right now. He doesn't like this. Yeah. Time for drinky drink. One of the guys from Gears and Gasoline had a Legacy GT Spec B. I don't know if we had them at the same time or not. That was an awesome car, but I bought mine with a lot of high mileage on it, and every like basically week something was going wrong with that car. Nothing terrible, I just didn't feel like keeping up with it. One week it was the radiator, then it was electronics fritzing. It got me where I needed to go, but I never really fully trusted it. So at this point I was done. I was like, I just need a cheap car. I'd finished college, I had student loans. I'm like, I'm gonna sell this and then just get a cheap car and then have a savings, bigger savings, and pay off some of my student loan debt. So I ended up getting a 2002 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland. Wild card. I wanted something that was like an SUV, but I missed having a car, but I just was like, I'm done with this. I got to focus on my career. I was pretty busy at the time. So I had that for, it was almost a year. It was a great truck. I only paid $2,500 for it. There was something wrong with it. Turns out the oxygen sensors, all those check engine lights were crazy. Turned out the wires were just melted from the exhaust, so we fixed that up and it was good to go. Changed some gaskets, changed the oil in it. Still going out with my now wife. We would drive in the winter and she'd complain that it was too cold. It had automatic climate control and I was just like, turn your side up. Turns out there was a hole in the firewall and every time we'd drive, the cold air would come in and make a freezing. So I apologize for that. We figured that out and then I was like, all the suspension bushings in that thing were going terribly bad. I had to basically redo every single bushing in that Jeep. It got death wobble. I was driving 3 to 4 hours on the highway because we were long distance at the time. I was like, I ain't got time for this. This is not reliable, not good. So I went back to my car roots. I wanted something that was good on gas, that was fun to drive, and was kind of sporty. So I picked up, which is now coming to my 11th vehicle, a 2012 Mazdaspeed3. It was an extremely nice car for how old I was. I got a really good deal on it. A military guy had bought it new and was selling it. So 2012 Mazdaspeed3, I bought this in 2014. It was only 2 years old. I got a great deal on it. I had that car for a little over a year. It did just everything I wanted to. It was a ton of fun, handled nice. It was extremely nice as far as comfortable, and it had the headlights that would turn as you turn the steering wheel. It was a super fancy car. I had changed jobs again and moved and gotten engaged. Actually got engaged while driving that car, kind of, sort of. That's another story. So I had that car. I had it for probably 6 months and I was just deciding like, this is too nice. I want to tinker with it, but there was nothing to really mess around with it. I missed tinkering with something. So I was just browsing Craigslist at the time. And that's when I found vehicle number 12. I found a 1986 BMW 325 ES. And it was just down the road. It had dented up back. The kicker was the thing was $400 and it ran and drove and had a clean title besides the actual back being messed up. So picked that up, tinkered with it, redid the timing belt in my same townhouse subdivision that didn't like my Jeep. Did all this stuff, made them mad, whatever, screw you guys. Had a lot of fun with that car. I was planning on cutting the back up and fixing it and making it just a nice fun little drive around car. And I ended up moving and couldn't take that car with me, so I ended up selling that car. And so that BMW is the derivative for what I have now, the 2002 C5 Z06. It's a convoluted story, but basically I bought that cheap car, put a little bit of money and time into it, sold it for a little bit more, bought a vehicle for that same price, if a couple $100 more, fix it up, and just kept teeter-tottering as I went on in life. By doing that, that paid for the insurance, the taxes. Like when I'd have a vehicle for about a year, I'd buy it at this price, pay taxes, pay insurance, pay maintenance fees, then I'd sell it for either the same or more. So I wasn't just throwing money out the window, which you can do with cars, either by repairs or depreciation. Just be mindful of how much you're actually paying for a car. Anyways, I had those two cars. I sold the BMW when I moved, so I was back down to one vehicle. That lasted a month. About a couple weeks into me moving to the new house, I picked up this 1997 Toyota 4Runner. That was the worst vehicle I've ever purchased, and it taught me a big lesson. Don't buy a piece of crap because you can't polish a turd. It had been off-roaded and owned by some just young kid. I got a great deal and it was like $1,000 or something like that, but it was not worth the money at all. Everything was messed up with it, but I did stop making this YouTube channel because of that 4Runner. You can go see those terrible videos I made a couple years ago. That's what got me started, so it was a terrible purchase, but in the long run got me pretty far. It's this kind of thing of life. No regrets. No regrets. Give me that ball! Get the ball! There it goes. So I sold that, had the Mazdaspeed3, was doing great, and I was like, I'm just going to save money. I'm not going to tinker with cars anymore. Nope. had the Craigslist bug, and I found a killer deal, which is now vehicle, if you look at it, number 14 as far as order of which I've got them. So Mazdaspeed3 was number 11. Now the Miata is 1994 Miata was number 14. It was a black 94 Miata 1.8, had the hardtop on it. There's a bunch of videos on my channel about that car. That really just springboarded the YouTube channel. A lot of people liked what I was doing with that car, just doing simple things, fixing it up. It was a diamond in the rough. I saw that was good, needed a little work, and I had a ton of fun working on it. I picked that up, and I had that for about a year. And where I was living at, you need to drive the highway a lot. There wasn't that many curvy roads, so I couldn't fully enjoy that car, which made me want to sell it. And I decided to sell it just because I couldn't fully enjoy what I was doing with it. I was doing more outdoorsy things. I wanted a Tacoma real bad. That's why I bought the 4Runner, because they're cheap versions of Tacomas, let's be real. So I sold that, and then vehicle number, did I sell that without owning it as well? I sure did. Never mind, take that back. So I had the Mazdaspeed3 and I had the 1994 Miata at the same time. Right before I got married, I've always wanted a Holden. I live in America now, so you can't really buy a Holden unless you buy a Pontiac GTO, Pontiac G8, or a Chevy SS. So at that time, 2015, I could afford a Pontiac G8. So that video drove from Virginia Beach area all the way to Detroit and back to pick up my G8 GT. That was on the channel. That was going to be the car to keep me going for a long, long time. I spent a lot of time and effort trying to get that car. That replaced the Mazdaspeed. I loved the Mazdaspeed, but I didn't like that. There was nothing to tinker with that car. It was perfect. And for what it was, it didn't get the best gas mileage. I probably got 19, and I needed to use premium in it. I couldn't tinker with it, and it didn't fit a whole lot of stuff, and I didn't want to mess it up at all. So it's wasn't the best daily in that regard. So I sold that. Got the G8 GT, had that through the wedding. It wasn't terribly unreliable, but it did leave me stranded almost once. I had to leave it at a dealership, get a rental car, and make the rest of the voyage. And because of that, I spent all this time and effort buying that car because of the lifter issue, that it had been fixed, and it went bad again. I just lost faith in that car. I was like, I can't trust this as being my main car. Another big thing is that it was my daily driver, and it was immaculate, and I did not like driving it because I didn't want to mess it up. And I've learned a whole lot from that car, that I'll never own a daily driver that I don't want to get scratched or dented up and freak out about it. During the time of me owning the G8, I wanted a truck, something I could mess up and get dirty and maybe drive it daily. So I picked up a 2002 Toyota Tacoma, which I have a bunch of videos on as far as me replacing the frame because I got screwed. But that thing didn't come from the factory with AC, and so I'm driving this old truck with the frame that was rusty and no AC, yet I've got this $15,000 G8 GT sitting in the garage just not being driven at all. It made no sense at all. We ended up moving again, took both those vehicles with us. I had fixed the Toyota frame with those videos. I actually fixed it right before we were moving. It was kind of motivation to get it fixed this quick. It helped me find our dog. That's another video. We went off-roading with that truck to try and find him. Got it. It was great. And then at that point, it just didn't make sense for me to have a G8 sit in the garage while I'm driving this truck that has no AC and not as nice a daily driver. So I sold that truck. That was a nightmare selling it. People that bought it from me tried to threaten to kill me and stuff like that because it didn't have AC, which I advertised in the thing. That was terrible. And I sold the G8 GT. So what was I driving at that point in time? Well, I was driving my wife's high school car. I went from the G8 GT in a Tacoma down to a 2006 Hyundai Elantra, which that vehicle comes in here as vehicle number 17. It was teal, it was pretty ugly. I just wanted it to be nice and have some good features to get me going by. So I put the head unit in it, I did the retrofit headlights, which is a good video about that on the channel right now. And at that time, my wife bought a 2015 Honda CR-V. That was going to be our main family car. So we had that. We're going to keep that for a while. The Hyundai I was just going to drive, the daily driver. And I wanted something fun, but I didn't want to spend a whole lot on it. So the Honda S2000 fit the bill perfectly. And to this day, I love that car. I sold that vehicle to my good friend Nathan. He's still keeping up with it. I still got to check on it. Kind of cool. So we're coming in here. This gets confusing. Number 18 is the Honda S2000. I bought that right before my wife got the the 2015 Honda CR-V, which is vehicle 19. And then we moved to Bowling Green, which was a year ago. So we ended up selling the Hyundai. It was going to need a timing belt. It was going to need new tires soon. We didn't want to sink that much money into it. My wife had that car for, she'd had it for 10 years. It was her only car for 10 years, basically. And we sold it. So she was upset about that because she grew fond of it. But she got a CR-V, which is a little bit nicer and fits her perfectly. So all was good there. We moved to we moved from Virginia to Bowling Green, Kentucky with a 2015 Honda CR-V and my 2000 Honda S2000, driving it. Made the drive just fine. Never thought I'd own a Honda in my life. Didn't really like them. Yet at this point, that's all we owned, and I'm glad we did. So I moved here. I only had the S2000. Daily driving the S2000 got old really quick, and so I really wanted a truck again. I found a killer deal on a 2005 Toyota Tacoma. It was a two-wheel drive, needed some paint issues. I fixed it all up, got the frame replaced on it. It's a great daily driver. So I had that for the main driving, and I had the S2000 as the part-time car. It's perfect. So that was vehicle number 20, was the 2005 Toyota Tacoma. Vehicle number 21, it's kind of a loosely owned car. We did King of the Heap. I did a video on that. It's where you drive a $1,000 car or less and you drive it on the autocross, the racetrack, drag strip, and rallycross. It's coming up this year. I'll do some videos on that. We got the same car. We're going to do a lot of cool stuff with it. So I own that car with 4 to 8 people. So it's kind of split costs, but we still own that car. So I'm counting that in this. It's kind of cheating, but whatever. So back to my original, so I've got all these cars, but I'm working at Harley Performance, and we make a ton of parts for domestic vehicles, and I like domestic vehicles, don't get me wrong. So I wanted a vehicle that I could apply some parts that we do, learn more about stuff. So I bought the 1976 Chevy Nova. The thing looked like an Australian car. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Holden era cars in Australia. So I replaced the G8 in a sense. It was domestic. I could the plan was to put an LS in that and make it more track oriented. And so that was going to scratch my itch for that. I'd keep the S2000 doing what I'm doing with that. My wife still's got the CR-V. So the 1976 Chevy Nova comes in as vehicle number 22. So everything's going good with the S2000 and the Nova. I've got the truck as well. Curveball, my wife's dad decides he's going to sell his 2015 Tacoma. It's a 10 years newer, had a 4-door, 4x4, had everything I wanted in it. I've always liked that truck. He offered it to me for a decent deal. It was a pretty expensive truck, most expensive vehicle I've ever purchased, and decided to go with that. And so I sold the blue truck and then got the Tacoma. So we've got the red Tacoma. Red Tacoma's coming in at vehicle number 23. So I've got the Tacoma, the S2000, and the CR-V at this point in time. And the Nova. We got 4 vehicles going on. It was crazy. I thought about it more. I was like, I'm barely spending money on the Nova. I'm barely spending money on the S2000. This doesn't make sense. I should just fold them into two vehicles should fold into one and accomplish what I'm looking to do. I sold the Nova, and I sold the S2000 day after each other. I sold the Nova on a Saturday, sold the S2000 on a Sunday. Sad weekend, I guess. I was 100% going to buy an E46 M3 and LS swap it. I was dead set on it. I test drove a couple. I was about to go buy one, and the guy was kind of flaky with me, and then I went on a trip where we kind of lost contact. He lost contact, and in that time period, talking with coworkers, writing down a list of everything I wanted to do with a vehicle. C506 fit the bill perfectly. I liked how they look. It fit all the bells I wanted and whistles I wanted to do. I could drive it. Ernie boy, what are you doing? What are you doing, man? And it fit the bill perfectly. So it took a couple weeks to find the C506 I was really looking at. Picked it up, started videos with that. We're doing the engine rebuild right now, which sucks, but I wanted a project and I wanted to learn more about this, so no regrets there. So I sold the S2000, sold the Nova, and picked up the C506, which is vehicle number 24. I've had 24 vehicles. I'm 29 years old as of this. I've had my license fully for 13 years. That's averaging almost 2 vehicles a year. Is this going to stop anytime soon? Everyone makes fun of me, saying no, it's never going to stop. When I bought the Tacoma, saying I'm going to keep it for a long time, people make fun of me, saying it's not going to happen. Based on my track record, it's not looking good, but I do plan on keeping that as my solid, reliable vehicle. From all the vehicles I've owned, I've learned from it. I can get it messy, it's reliable, I'm not freaking out about it. It gets decent gas mileage for being a truck at least, it's very practical. Just that's gonna be my main go-to vehicle wherever I need to go. And then I can have fun stuff on the side to tinker around with that's cheap and keep the cost down. The Tacoma is gonna depreciate, the CR-V is gonna depreciate, but the cost over time of how long we own them, it's one of the least depreciating vehicles you can have. So I'm okay with owning those because in trade I get a reliable vehicle for that time. So it's not an asset, vehicle's not an asset, but I've treated most of my vehicles like an asset. And that's what's allowed me to have so many cars and not be freaking broke. So keep that in mind. If you don't have that much money, look at a vehicle in terms of an asset and try to mitigate it, try to not have as much money going out the door with the vehicle, because a vehicle can be a huge money pit and really destroy you financially. So be smart about it, understand the depreciation costs, understand the maintenance costs, understand the insurance, the property tax, what the total cost of the vehicle is going to be versus what you're going to sell it for if you're struggling for cash. So if you can pick up cheap vehicle up, own it for a year, fix it up, and then sell it for the amount of money you put into it, or give or take a couple $100, you're basically driven for a full year for the price of gas, which is awesome. So vehicle number 24, is that going to be the last vehicle I own? 100% no. I'm very happy with the Corvette right now, even though it's not running. I cannot wait to drive it. I'm very happy with the Tacoma. It fits my needs perfectly. It's a little expensive. I get the itch to sell it and buy something cheap every now and then, but it's super reliable. It's going to be reliable for the next 10 plus years probably. So we'll see. That being said, I do want another vehicle. I'm freaking weird. If you follow my Instagram, you can see what vehicle I'm after. I'm going to keep it a secret, so you go check out the Instagram plug right here. Keep it real. Love to be fresh. The morals of the story is be smart about what vehicles you buy, understand the full cost of what you're getting yourself into, and just move up. When you're 20 years old, 18 years old, you don't need the nicest car. It'll financially ruin you. And two, it teaches you to learn on cars and respect cars and just give you stepping stones to work up towards. You don't wake up and all of a sudden have a Lamborghini unless you're Justin Bieber or something. Most people, you go through stages in life. So start with something that you think is cool, that's a good price. Really, when you go to buy a car, the price is the big thing. However much you pay for it really depicts the future as far as if it's being a good value for you or not. So find something cool, pay a good price for it, be conscious about how much you put money into it, and then do realize you're probably going to sell that vehicle at some point in time. Most people don't keep a car the rest of their life. And even if they do, you're going to die, you're going to sell the car, so you're not keeping a car forever. It's a financial decision. That's all I got. I wanted to share that. I got a bunch of vehicles. I want to explain where I've come from, why I've chosen the vehicles I have, why I have the vehicles that I have now because of stuff that's happened in the past. Happy to share that. Have you owned a bunch of vehicles? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like this video if you found it helpful. Be sure to share it with your friends and tell your dog about this video because it's all good. That's all I got. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. Go subscribe to everything. I'm posting stuff on Instagram and Facebook more than I'm putting out videos currently because, you know, it's kind of easier. Thanks a lot. Keep it real. Peace out.